Yeah, I'm going to read a few pieces from the book and one new piece, and I'm kind of in a funny mood tonight, so it's going to be a little bit odd and strange. But I'm going to begin with an essay poem, kind of about ecological resilience, and there are quotations from Charles Darwin's letters and diaries interspersed in here at random, but I'm not going to give you any of the separations or notes. At the Natural History Museum. The spinal juts evolve along the line. The soft sounds grow into chunks and blocks of shape, and the shapes rectangularize. The daggers of the spine are now like people. Plunicorns and lynx tips, displays of color, expanded vermilion, having terminations on cubital wax wings, the light drawn in and sent back beautiful. Instinct sends us back to things we know are safe. If a refuge does us harm, but creates emotional security, even so, we return to it. Addiction and instinct are related. There is no country which has now any attraction for us without it is seen right astern, and the more distant and indistinct the better. We are all utterly homesick. Slowly and by little starts, the mountains rise, the chain emerging from the mud of seabed, linking species to species. The two-shelled creature in my head, my brains, the two-shelled creature in my chest, my lungs. Preserve these. Their history is multitude. Not the process, but the feel of petrified wood attracts me. I haven't a language for history. The mind is a chaos of delight. The lizard lies limp, back peeling, and toes slack on the branch, a length of tail casual between twig spines, the long, slow change of greens and greys, the wood thrown clothing over the floor, a broom of leaving in the air, eyes slain into sleep and breathing, a plume of bronchia, skeins of desiccant yester skin. Once I was awake, but now I think that you will humanize me, and soon teach me there is greater happiness than building theories and accumulating facts in silence and solitude. The unity of type of the great changes in embryo, the hand to clasp, the bat's wing to fly, the porpoise to swim, the skeletal design shared with all, the lock and key of orchids and their pollinators, the perfect beauty of this symbiosis is astonishing to me. Why does a species adapt itself almost in service to another species? Why evolve to this degree of dependency? It feels almost as if strength can be drawn from this ability to interconnect. But where is the strength here? How do delicate orchids flourish by this web? Orchids must be a demonstration of the power of complex systems in a microcosm. Variation is key. At points of threatened survival, the genetic code seems to shift, no doubt over millions of years, or shorter but expansive periods. The point is to go on fucking. So I've used an epigram for the book from Maggie Nelson's The Argonauts, which kind of says something about what I was trying to do in the background here to this collection. I'm just going to share it with you now. Once something is no longer illicit, punishable, pathologized, or used as a lawful basis for raw discrimination or acts of violence, that phenomenon will no longer be able to represent or deliver on subversion, the subcultural, the underground, the fringe, in the same way. And so I began to see nature's refusal to fit into human dominance as a way of subverting human society and beliefs and ideologies, and my own as well. And I began to then adopt these scientific transects and quadrats, these mythologies for collecting data from the world, as a way of seeing nature myself, as a resistance to my own climate catastrophism or dissatisfaction with the direction our species is going. I'm going to share a short one of these transects. This one was literally a transect of my own, sound of my own feet walking through a wood, which I then kind of translated into a second piece. It's called Feetful. Calm chuck or kut clacked, mesh shutter grit, ort rut rubble, ick depat, hush or tick grist, poured down crit percale, tonk wrong, sproing ordnance, stored long borehole, caught board, long boing, drop polyp, hill up, clod cop, oak lip, crisp lick, hello, soft spring, crumping skushoft hug bickist, crab, scarb, crave, stag, tong, og, dog, cricket, ticket, sog, report, blag, snort, talk, flick, wisp, alert, sharp aspect, feet, odd, leeward, eaten. At the crux of 4 tracks, 2 leaf littered, but the wider junctures soiled. Where are the season's wide-eyed signs? By expo erasure gone, calm chucked orchid of the court stepping, the oak lips crisp lick, the bridges oft sprung boards drop polyps at hill cups. Black bracken earth eschews root digits, trees which split 20 feet up, while others fork at a child's height. Trauma, love, coextensive. So I'm going to share something now. I'm reading from screen, so I cannot see anything on the screen, but I'm going to share something from a project, a series in process called, working title, Extinction Series. So it's not very chirpy, but it's just something I'm having to get off my chest. Crisis comes in waves. And this is called Heresy. In the early modern period, when heretics were burned at the stake, they strapped a small barrel of gunpowder to the victim's waist, which would explode and kill them once the fire had climbed to the height necessary to deem the suffering sufficient to sate the viewer's appetite for cruelty and exoneration. Suffering, in that context, was a release. To witness such damage upon another's body was freedom from one's own suffering. Stories recount a Protestant martyr who sang hymns as fire ate up his body, burning his legs, melting the flesh until the nerve endings were deadened. When the gunpowder barrel exploded, the downward blast destroyed his legs without killing him. In these situations, as the fire climbs and the skin melts and the nerve endings are destroyed, the body lives on as the Catholic God exacts greater punishment upon the greater sinners. Witnesses described how, as the man's lips melted from his face in the heat, his jaw continued moving with no skin, no oxygen to breathe, no vocal cords left, and as his eyes melted from their sockets and the last of his hair burned away and his ears dripped like wax onto his exposed shoulder bones, finally I found myself in the narrative burning to death in a too hot fire I couldn't extinguish, and my teeth ached in my molten jaw, and the smell of my burning flesh reached a fist into my lungs, drawing in all the fire of this constant climate we inhabit, yet still I keep singing my refrain. We did this to ourselves. We did this to ourselves, and now we suffer. What remains belongs to those who can adapt to inhuman heat, to subhuman cold, to suffering unimaginable, to us heretics consigned to life. So I can't leave it there. It's not a pleasant ending note. So I'm going to read one last piece from the book. And this is the point at which I started kind of waking out of things and cutting transects through the speech of people I admired. And I'll share one of these. I've done quite a few more since. This is just an ongoing book project that's never going to end for me. And this is from an artist talk by Chloe Fremantle, a landscape artist I saw in an Oxford reading at the Botanical Gardens towards the end. And the title was from the chair's talk about her. She has developed her own alphabet. This is fragments of what she said. Imbued with the beauty of being somewhere closer to a particular reality, aerial view of what the plan homage to the tree, vast and extraordinary, black pines as old as that. Some of these little studies, some of these wilder landscapes, French landscapes, move on to something different out of people at the end, part of that. Why don't you paint about it? A vast, expansive, inviting house. Something about the skies would fit in here, part of an ongoing October, something much more urban in the everyday, industrial, fantastic big skies. How light affects things on one level. Even in the industrial, love can give you summers in Scotland, a lot of black, three-dimensional things, express something about, we're all going to experience. My parents loved gardening. All the plants were extra friends. Respond more to gardens. Terribly, it had been a very small garden, oasis you go into. Energy and nourishment you go into, hide what things are from. The same patterns recur, back very much to say before we move, much better than the radio on the fifth perception, color. Understand why light, our brain interprets, transposes because of the light in our minds, quality of light lit by a huge effect. Talk about color constancy, a key to our survival. A red mushroom knows it's dangerous. To bright pink and pale green, keep constant the colors, to survive if it gets made, to respond to natural light at times. I think you'll notice, geographically, the size of France, the softness is richer and different. Colors we want to have inside us. Picking up things in the atmosphere, forgotten things in the market, in different places, really the palette thin and like a wash, splash of something down, happier with matter. Smear them all over you, exposed to the park in a lovely old church hall, allergic from, oh Lord, all sorts of things. Heavier with it, all kinds of things with it. Water-based, the side of the drive, we discussed the 30s, early. Obviously there's instinct, clinical, might do, walking backwards and forwards, painting not just the form, but the extraordinariness.